Yali Madad, my name is Afroza Nanji. Welcome to a session entitled The Pearl of Intellect. This is a 40-minute exploration of perspectives on intellect, drawing upon art and poetry and stories, and I have two lovely, knowledgeable guests joining me as well. When I was exploring the collection of the Aga Khan Museum, images of which are shown on the museum's website, I came across a very interesting piece that caught my eye. An 18th century piece the size of a palm. What does it look like to you? It is indeed a shell, a mother of pearl shell, and you'll notice on it there are some inscriptions. Its glowing surface is engraved, according to its description, with 8 concentric rings, and they contain verses from the Holy Quran. I was really interested in this particular ring, this inscription here, which is more easily seen, and I called upon my friend Rola for some help. Yali Madad, Rola. It's so nice to see you. Thank you for joining us to help us understand a little bit more about this lovely image. This one here from the Aga Khan Museum collection, 18th century piece from India. What do you think it is, Rola?
I actually see a shell and a verse inscribed, a verse from the Quran, inscribed in like nastaliq, naqsh, and calligraphy scripts.
Wow, there's so much detail, don't you feel? I mean, I see these rings, 8 rings, right, from the center radiating out, but I really need your help with something, Rola. This particular, there are verses from the Holy Quran. There's one in particular that might be easier to see, this large ring. I remember you telling me maybe the 3rd ring. Can you tell us what this is in Arabic and the translation as well?
Yeah, actually this is a verse from the Quran, Al Imran, and ayah 41. It says, قل إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم والله غفور رحيم. So the translation actually says, if you love Allah, follow me. Allah will love you and forgive you your sins. For Allah is often forgiving and most merciful.
So Allah is telling Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to tell the people, right? Say, And so where does this start? Does this start, like, where is this, when you're reading it, where do you start on the shell?
Actually, because it is circle, it starts, I don't know how I can actually, do you see my mouse?
No, only my mouse can be seen. But
the left a little here, a little down toward, exactly, it starts here.
Wow, starts here and goes around. Okay, what a lovely verse. And imagine inscribed on a shell. It's quite remarkable. What does it mean to you when you recite this verse and think about this shell? What do you think of?
You know what, Afroza, actually, I'll tell you, as this item is from the museum, I'll tell you, the first time I visited the museum, I was part of an IS group, and having grown up in a Muslim country, I was able to relate to the majority of the items displayed in the museum. such as the calligraphy, the painting, ceramics, even the carpet and rugs. And during the tour, I was able to add extra information on how these items fit into the wider Muslim context. I remember one of the participants, she actually commented and said, "Oh, this feels like home to you." This piece as well actually reminds me of how many of the Syrian homes have shells displayed on one of the corners. In fact, shells have has a significance for us as it's considered a wonder of God. You know, it nurtures pearls inside, and it's protected by the oyster. In other words, actually, a shell is like a sack that protects pearls. And in Arabic language, we actually metaphorically use the pearls for any precious thing. I'll give you an example. Like a mother always call her kid like my own pearl. So that's how we feel about pearls and shell. And to add beauty to that, harvesting a pearl actually is considered like a sustainable practice. So usually, like farmers, when they remove pearls, they don't actually harm the oyster or damage the shell, because the more the oyster age, the more or the better the quality of the pearls will be. So if we actually reflect on that from a faith perspective, you can see how actually pearls have been mentioned multiple times in the Holy Quran, which adds like holiness to it. Even in Arabic language, actually, we call the precious stones holy stones. Yeah, and pearls is one of them, of the holy stone. And growing up in school in Muslim countries, we always learned that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam words are like pearls. And even like for us as Ismailis, we always say that Maulana Hafiz Imam words are like pearls that we have to keep, understand, and reflect on on a daily basis. So in another word, it's like the more you cultivate and optimize on Prophet Muhammad and Maulana Hafiz Imam words, the wiser and more successful you will grow.
How lovely. You've taken us, from culture to science to faith, all when you see this image. But any stories, family stories, stories growing up about the shell, anything to share?
Yeah. Actually, interestingly enough, 2 weeks ago, my sister who lives in France was going to take a walk by the sea. She was telling me and my little nephew this, and then my little nephew momentarily jumped in and said, "Are you going to collect any shells?" And she actually showed him how many shells she has in her room. And we always when we were little, we didn't have the chance to go and visit the sea, but for us it was such an amazing experience to find the shell, even if we had to buy it with a lot of money. But then we used to do something funny. We used to put the shell on our ears and listen to the sound of sea. And for us it was real, actually. That's how the sound of sea was. And we used to come up with a story that the sea told us through the shell. And we always believed that it was true. Even my mom, actually, she always, whenever she wanted to inspire and motivate us, she would tell us a story with a moral and tell us that this story was told to her by the sea through the shell.
So this was growing up in Syria, you're saying?
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, wow, Rola, you're saying funny, but I remember too. putting the shell right away to the ear, like the mystery of the ocean. What could I hear? The ocean is so vast, so big. How can I understand it? But through the shell. I really love this image that I'm seeing of your mom, telling you and guiding you, directing you based on what she's hearing from the shell, which houses the precious part. So really, really interesting. Thank you so much for sharing so generously your perspectives, your stories, and really happy to have had this conversation.
Yeah, I'm happy that I have shared my experience too. And thank you for inviting me to be part.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Rola. Yali Madad.
Yeah, Afroza. Yali Madad.
I'm happy to have called upon Rola because it was so interesting to hear and experience in Arabic this verse from the Holy Quran in which God tells Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, say, if you love God, follow me, and God will love you and forgive you your sins. God is most forgiving, most merciful. I was reminded when I saw this image of the shell of a story from the IIS secondary curriculum, the Quran and its interpretations module. And it is a story about the creation of Adam, and the story is attributed to Jalal-al-Din Rumi, 13th century Muslim mystic and poet. In this story, we are told that once God created Adam, he asked Angel Jibril to take 3 pearls from his sea of power and present them to Adam to choose but one. The first pearl was the pearl of intellect, akal. The second was faith, iman. And the third was modesty, haya. The angel presented the 3 pearls to Adam, and he said, the mu'min, the believer, sees by means of God's light. He saw the pearl of intellect and chose it. Jibril, the story goes, subsequently tried to take the 2 remaining pearls, the pearl of faith and the pearl of modesty, back to Allah's sea of power. But try as the angel might, he was unable to take them, to move them. They were heavy. The 2 pearls, the pearl of faith and the pearl of modesty, said to the angel, we cannot be separated from the company of intellect. We cannot be in any place where it is not present. This is because from the beginning, the pearls said, we have been jewels of the mine of divine greatness. Suddenly, the angel heard Allah's voice, leave them and come here. Immediately, intellect nestled into the summit of the human brain. The pearl of faith settled in the heart, and the pearl of modesty settled in the face of Adam. Rumi writes that these 3 pearls are found in the children of Adam, and the aim is to have oneself shine by these 3 pearls. The pearl of intellect, of faith, and modesty. When I read this, I thought of the work of another poet, a little further back in time from our history. Sayyidina Nasir Khusraw was a leading Ismaili Muslim philosopher, poet, Dai, who was born over 1,000 years ago in Central Asia. In Alice Hunsberger's book, The Ruby of Badakhshan, Nasir Khusraw, The Ruby of Badakhshan, an Institute of Ismaili Studies publication, the author tells us what Sayyidina Nasir Khusraw thought was the most precious thing. But let me ask you first, if you were to take a look at your immediate surroundings, immediate environment, what would you say is the most precious thing? The author Hansberger writes that Sayyidina Nasir Khusraw saw himself as the most precious thing in his surroundings. She writes that he felt that no matter the external circumstances, no matter the physical conditions, each person is a work of God, a creature of intrinsic value. Each person contains a piece of eternity, a soul that is the true self. To find this essential self, a person must work and dig. In that effort that Sayyidina Nasir Khusraw writes about, intellect, Aql, leads the way. The following poem can be found in Sayyidina Nasir Khusraw's Divan. The world is a deep ocean. Its water is time. Your body is like a shell, your soul the pearl. If you wish to have the value of a pearl, raise up the pearl of your soul by learning. What do you see when you read this, when you hear it? The world is a deep ocean. Its water is time. Perhaps that the world is something to journey through. Time is passing, flowing. The physical body is likened to a shell which houses a pearl. Learning, acquiring knowledge, something we tend to associate with the material, physical world around us, is to do with that which is eternal in us. Raise up the pearl of your soul by learning. Now, this is not to say that knowledge of the world, learning about the world, about our surroundings is not the point. Hansberger writes that in Sayyidina Nasir Khusraw, she writes, there is a deep admiration for human ability to design, to create, to organize, but most of all, to envisage beyond the present. This admiration for the human desire to achieve more, to know more, stands at the basis of Nasir Khusraw's philosophy of all existence. You see, this knowledge of and reflection on the world, on Allah's creation, is accompanied by a search to know oneself. Sayyidina Nasir Khusraw advises us to discover the brilliance within ourselves, the effort to find and to polish that which is in us takes place when intellect leads the way. This allows one, right? Intellect allows one to know temporary from permanent, non-essential from essential. The form, along with the very important meaning, it allows one to reflect, to discern, to be aware. Now, how about faith? How about the pearl of faith that said, I need to be in the company of intellect? Maulana Hazar Imam said at the inauguration of the Faculty of Health Science of the Aga Khan University Hospital on November 11th, 1985. The divine intellect, Aql Kul, both transcends and informs the human intellect. It is this intellect which enables man to strive towards two aims, dedicated by the faith, that he should reflect upon the environment Allah has given and that he should know himself. It is the light of intellect which distinguishes the complete human being from the human animal, and developing that intellect requires free inquiry. The man of faith who fails to pursue intellectual search is likely to have only a limited comprehension of Allah's creation. Indeed, it is man's intellect that enables him to expand his vision of that creation. In this next poem from Sayyidina Nasir Khusraw's Diwan, as you listen and read, ask yourself, what is the pearl here? What does the pearl represent in this poem? Where can it be found? And how can it be found? God's good word is an ocean of words, brimming with gems of finest worth and pearls of finest luster. Salty like ocean brine seems its manifest form, but to those who know and understand, inner meaning is like a pearl hidden in the depths. The bottom of the sea lies thick with jewels and pearls. Why do you keep running along the shore? Go seek a diver. What did you discover in this poem? The pearl in this particular poem is external to the seeker. The ocean is full of precious pearls hidden in the ocean's depths at the bottom of the sea. In the earlier poem that we explored, the pearl was interior. It was in the shell, right? Your body is like a shell. Your soul, the pearl. Here it is the pearl of knowledge and meanings that need to be unceasingly searched for. So one sees a journey, an inquiry, a search to come to know, to understand Allah's creation around us and perhaps its purpose, and a journey, a dive within to come to know the self. Sayyidina Nasir Khusraw has helped me understand or make some sense of Rumi's story of the three pearls as it relates to the pearl of intellect and the pearl of faith. What about the pearl of modesty, which is also connected, right, to the two, to intellect and faith? And, the pearl of modesty in the story as well could not remain separate from intellect. Have you heard about the story in Sayyidina Nasir Khusraw's Diwan of the eagle, the poem about the eagle who, rises from its rocky perch, extends its broad, beautiful wings and feathers. And then what happens to this eagle? Well, I wanted to hear this poem in Persian. So I called upon my friend Alabakhsh, who's joined us now. Yali Madad Alabakhsh, thank you so much for joining us.
Walali Madad, Dr. Afroza, thank you very much for having me.
We're so interested and excited to hear the poem about the eagle, the poem from Sayyidina Nasir Khusraw's Diwan. Can you share it with us and also the translation, the story behind the poem, please?
Sure. Okay. So I have the Diwan book with me, and I'll try to look upon it when I read, although I have memorized it. روزی ز سر سنگ عقابی به هوا خواست، از بحر طمع بال و پری خویش بیاراست. به راستی بال نظر کرد چنین گفت، امروز همه روی زمین زیر پر ماست. گر اوج بگیرم بپرم از نظر شیر، می بینم اگر ذره‌ای اندر تک دریاست. گر بر سری خاشاک یکی پشه بجنبد، جنبیدن آن پشه عیان در نظر ماست. بسیار منی کرد ز تقدیر نترسید، بنگر که از این چرخ جفا پیش چه برخاست. ناگاه ز کمینگاه یک سخت کمانی، تیری ز قضا قدر انداخت بر او راست. بر بال و قاب آمده آن تیر جگردوز، و ز ابر مر او را به سوی خاک فرو کاست. بر خاک بیفتاد و بغلتید چو ماهی، وانگاه پری خویش کشید و از چپ و راست. گفتا عجب است این که ز چوب است و ز آهن، این تیزی و تندی پریدنش کجا خواست. ز تیر نگه کرد و پری خویش برو دید، گفتا ز که نالم که از ماست که بر ماست. حجت تو منی را سری خویش بدر کن، بنگر به عقابی که منی کرد چه ها خواست. So the general meaning of this poem is that one day an eagle started flying from a rock and opened its broad wings to find some food. As the eagle looked at its strong, straight wings, it started thinking that everything on earth was under its wings. Like if I fly to the highest peak and am given no light, I would still be able to see everything beneath the surface of the sea, or even a flying movement on the grass. That's how powerful my eyesight is, the eagle is saying. The eagle showed off its superiority and arrogance extremely, and did not much afraid of fate, and did not aware of the consequences of its extreme arrogance. Suddenly an arrow left its bow and hit one wing of the eagle, who fell down on the ground from the heights of the clouds. When the eagle fell from the sky onto the ground, riding like a fish out of water, it looked at its feathers on left and right in disbelief. The eagle was confused that what caused its fall. The eagle realized that the arrow that had caused its injury and fall to the ground was made by the eagle feathers from his own kind, as most kibar most. Sayyidina Nasir Khusraw calls himself Hujjat, means reason, logic or proof, the Imam, that, oh Hujjat, get rid of arrogance in your head, as you saw what arrogance did to the eagle.
Thank you so much, Alabaksh. I really enjoyed hearing that in Persian. And you entered the poem. You told us with such a feeling and such thoughtfulness. Thank you for that. I especially, enjoyed the Az Mast Ki Bar Mast. What you send out will come back to you. Could you, in general, share your understanding? I mean, you recited the poem, you provided us the translation, but what is your understanding? What is the message behind this poem?
Okay, I think here the poem is talking about two important things, very important. Arrogance and humility, both are in energy. So this story can be analyzed in different forms, but I would share what it shapes my perspective. We as human beings have negative and positive energies, and the ego or arrogance itself is a very powerful energy that drives us towards our destination. Now it's upon us. How do we do the transformation? Are we doing everything to ourselves only, or are we helping others or harming others? If we're thinking only about ourselves and our superiority only, like thinking only about ourselves and not worrying about others, then I would relate to Saadi's poem again, that it doesn't apply to us then if we claim as human being, where he says bani adam a'zai yak digaran ke dar afrinish z yak jawharan. Human beings are members of a whole in creation of one essence and soul. چو عضوی بدرد آورد روزگار دیگر عضوها را نماند قرار. If one member is afflicted with pain, other members uneasy will remain. If you have no sympathy for a human pain, the name of human you cannot retain. Indeed, like humanity is inevitably interdependent, and we see today's pandemic brought everyone under one umbrella and seeking for help.
So the idea that humility allows you to, or moving from the self to thinking of others is an act of humility, right? And that's really interesting. It makes me think of, one of the central messages of Sayyidina Nasir Khusraw in his teaching, in his divan, and in his other works, requesting us to journey to come to know the self. That when you journey and you come to know the self, you come to realize your purpose, your potential. And so then how does that connect with this idea of pride or ego? What does pride prevent us from accomplishing, from doing?
Okay, very interesting question. Yeah, thank you. So this is, I would say that how this pride or arrogance makes a person to miss the chance to recognize the truth. I mean, when someone thinks that I know everything and find himself or herself equipped with everything, I think that's where the mercy of learning and growth stops. Mm-hmm. It has an opportunity cost. Pir Hassan Kabiruddin says in Ginan, Chaturisa Karora Kitabe Pareya Pana Betara Beda Napaya, which means that Azazil read 360 million books, yet he didn't understand the truth. Azazil was very well equipped with knowledge, simply didn't prostrate to Adam, Allah's command, where he was deprived of Almighty Allah's mercy. I would recall one Sadi's poem where he says that Takabbur Azazil ra khawr kart, bazindaan la'nat giraftar kart. The shaitan's arrogance ruined him, leaving him deprived of Allah's mercy and cursed to a prison. Takabbur chudani chira mekuni, khata mekuni, khata mekuni. When you know about arrogance and ego, why you keep doing? You're committing mistakes. I'm repeating again, saying you're committing mistakes. So I think while the ego and arrogance blind us from the reality of existence, it basically deletes the rationality of decision making as well. And last thing also I would say on this part that one of Mawla Ali's quote from Nahj al-Balagha, where he says that the sin which makes you blame is better than the virtue which makes you arrogant. Here Mawla Ali condemns also that those who do the worships and thinking and superior in their faith, which is not favorable, in faith practices, if someone thinks himself or herself superior without piety, why the person should do the practice then? On the other hand, the beauty of practice comes in submission, intellectual humility to the ultimate power, and only it can give calm and happiness. Almighty Allah praises the nafs or conscience that reproach themselves. In Surah Al-Qiyamah, verse 2, Almighty Allah says, وَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِالنَّفْسِ اللَّوَامَةِ, and I swear by the self reproaching conscience.
So this very intimate connection between faith and humility and intellect, the three are very, you've positioned them together in your exploration, which is fascinating. Thank you so much. Your quotations, your sources, the way you've interpreted also what you've read and what you've shared. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Alabaksh. I'm so happy I called upon you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Afroza, for giving this beautiful opportunity. I always enjoy a lot.
Thank you again. Yali Madad. It's fascinating. The very thing that raises us, intellect, akal, that is so precious, that makes us the most precious thing in our surroundings, according to Sayyidina Nasir Khusraw, can be the cause of our downfall if there isn't modesty or humility, if there is excessive sense of self. Cast away the ego and your selfishness, the poet tells himself. There's a speech by Maulana Hazri Imam at the acceptance of the charter of the Aga Khan University, Karachi, Pakistan, that he delivered on March 16th, 1983. In Islamic belief, knowledge is twofold. There is that revealed through the Holy Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that which man discovers by virtue of his own intellect. Nor do these two involve any contradiction, provided man remembers that his own mind is itself the creation of God. Without this humility, no balance is possible. With it, there are no barriers. Faith gives purpose to intellect, and humility prevents it from not realizing its potential. Enables intellect to realize its potential. This is what I have discovered through this exploration. What purpose and what potential? Based on what we have uncovered today, to come to know Allah's creation. Because there's always something to learn. To come to know Allah's creation, to come to know oneself, and to serve Allah's creation. And so in the story, the pearls of faith and modesty couldn't be separated from the pearl of intellect. They make us most precious in our surroundings, and we can make an effort to have them shine in and through us. Thank you for joining me to reflect on Rumi's story of Prophet Adam and the three pearls, by drawing upon and exploring poetry of Sayyidina Nasir Khusraw from his Diwan, and to hear from two special guests. May I suggest that if you're interested in learning more, to read fully Maulana Hazri Imam's Aga Khan University speeches, and to also look at Nasir Khusraw, The Ruby of Badakhshan, written by Alice Hansberger, along with an ebook that is available at the Institute of Ismaili Studies website, The Pearls of Persia. Thank you. Yali Madad.